Hey there everyone, Dr. Stock here, and in my last video on Lucid, I got to talk about how I was right and that felt good. In this video, I'm talking about NVIDIA and the fact that I was wrong, and it doesn't feel too bad. I don't like to be wrong, but it's bound to happen sometimes. So I'm going to look at their earnings. I want to look at the revenue that came in and talk about the direction that NVIDIA is heading and why the stock moved as explosively as it did following the earnings report, which wasn't, it was a good one compared to some of their other ones, but really what made it move the way that it did. That's really what I want to focus on in this video. And we can also take a look at some of the analyst price targets that are out there for NVIDIA. And we'll see just where that stock is heading in the near term. And we can talk about where that stock is also heading in the future from here. If you want to hear more of my commentary, check out that link down in the description for the Patreon. Click it, come on over, sign up, check out the Patreon exclusive content, as well as being a member of the community that we have over there that's small for now, but growing quickly. And I really look forward to building out that community over time. The people who are there are absolutely wonderful. And if you're wonderful too, we'd love to have you. So with that said, let's move right on into the content. All right, so I realized that this isn't the most timely video. I actually already recorded it this morning, and I rambled on for like a half hour, and I ran out of time to put everything together, and I was having technical difficulties. My microphone, I already speak softly, and my microphone, there's a setting where you can change the decibels from +20 to -10. I keep it on +20. At some point in time, I accidentally switched it to -10, so it was like super quiet, and I had no time to fix it. So I apologize for not being too timely. Let's move right on so I don't take up any more of your time. So here it is directly from NVIDIA. They announced financial results. So the quarterly revenue was down 21% from a year ago, and the stock still skyrocketed. And there are reasons for that. Matter of fact, why not tell it now? Now's a good time. So semiconductor shortage was a real issue for that, and that is something that they actually had to pay quite a bit more in order to navigate that successfully. But being a rock star company like they are, you don't get to a $500 billion market cap by not being a credible, or in this case, incredible company. It just doesn't happen. So even though down 21% from a year ago, that's one reason that it was such a weak quarter when compared to that. Also, there was a gaming slowdown because of their GPU sales for gaming, because some of those GPUs, a large portion of them, were used in crypto mining. However, with Ethereum going proof of stake, there wasn't as much demand for that as well. So it wasn't just the gamers out there, but also the miners that were out there. And now a lot of that demand has been diminished as well. One other headwind that we had for NVIDIA for Q4 of 2022 versus Q4 of 2021 is the fact that the United States has placed a ban on sending AI components to China. So that also caused a hit to not only Q4, but also Q3 of their sales. So there were no shortage of limitations or headwinds for NVIDIA, and they still squeaked out $6.05 billion anyway, which is actually a little bit stronger than what they had in Q3. We'll get to that soon. So they did comment that revenue was flat from a year ago. I want to highlight this part for you right here because it's a significant contrast to a company like Lucid from yesterday. Now, Lucid is in a different industry. They are at the very beginning, early stages of their company. When, if you're an investor in Lucid, the risk that you're taking is that it's a speculative investment in that there's no money there yet. There's no return to shareholders yet. Being that they need cash, there's likely some share dilution that's going to happen yet. So that's a very young company in a very competitive market that has a very, very large entry fee, very high barrier to entry to start. NVIDIA has withstood the test of time and really developed well as a company and really matured as a company, that not only are they able to return to shareholders, but part of that was also some share buybacks, that instead of having a dilution of the shares, there's a reverse dilution. So you could think of it like a concentration, if you want to, that each one of the shares would be worth more because of that buyback that they have. So something that you need to know there is that NVIDIA said for Q3 that likely it was the bottom, and so far they're showing us that Q3 of last year was the bottom for them, and they're starting to inflect back upwards. So let's go down to their fiscal summary. So you can see Q4 compared to Q3, there's the up 2%. And when it's compared to Q4 of last year, by the way, these fiscal years, remember, are 1 year they read 1 year ahead of where we're currently at. So this is Q4 of 2022 is their fiscal year 23, down 21%. However, they have moved upward quarter over quarter. And when you have such significant near-term news like they did throughout 2022, it makes a lot of sense to look at how they rotate out of that time period. And so far, they've done it beautifully. As a matter of fact, check out their gross margin. In Q3, it was 53.6%. They brought it back up to 63.3%, and it wasn't even in the best macroeconomic circumstances. That just goes to show, it speaks a lot for just how incredible of a company NVIDIA is. So I don't mean to sound like a fanboy. It's just after looking at Lucid, trying to get things started, trying to get things going, and I wish them the best, and I really hope that they can do it. NVIDIA's one to celebrate because they have done it. There you go. That's why I'm so happy. And anybody who's part of being NVIDIA as an investor, especially prior to this earnings, congratulations. And if you traded this, and if you went long on this as a trade prior to earnings, congratulations. And if you had options on this, some call options that really printed green, congratulations. Matter of fact, if you want to celebrate, use the comments here to celebrate your victory that you have. And then, like I said in one of my previous videos, 2 claps to celebrate, and then eyes forward, eyes on the next prize. What's the next opportunity in the markets? So I think now's a good time to look at the slide. So this is their information. This is directly from NVIDIA, and you can see what Q4 looks like compared to Q3. So data center, in my previous video, I thought data center would really be where they shined this quarter, and they were good, not quite as strong as they were in Q3, and that surprised me. And that's part of the reason why I called NVIDIA a coin flip. I just didn't know between that and gaming, their 2 biggest areas by far. I just didn't know what to expect. The 4000 series graphics cards that we'd have for gaming, they're incredible. They're super power hungry, and there were some issues. The 4080, I think it was the 12 gigabyte version. The 4080 was actually downgraded to being called the 4070 Ti, 4080. I don't know if I said 480, but 4080. So they have the 4090, they have the 4080, and then they have the 4070 Ti. And they actually weren't going to call it the 4070 originally. They were going to call it, I think, the 12 gigabit version of the 4080, then I think it was a 16 or 24 gigabit version. I'd have to look and see. I didn't buy one, but I did watch a lot of videos on it when I was looking to buy a PC for more of the creative process. I ended up going with a Mac instead. I have that video over at the Patreon, but basically it was an all-in-one machine that was probably the best bang for the buck. And well, for me, it was an asset purchase, but that did not mean that I wanted to overspend on that computer. And so for gaming, I think that's part of the headwinds we see in gaming, and that's why I mentioned it here, is just the expense of it. I think that it priced out the consumers, especially coming out of the pandemic. Yes, in their earnings call, they said about kind of rebounding a little bit from the previous year. However, I think having some lower tier graphics cards available with the next series could be something that could bring in a lot of consumers back to gaming. And not necessarily that 2023 is the best year to do that. Maybe by the end of it, we get that lower cost, lower price, but still high performing GPU coming from them. Honestly, I don't think that's where NVIDIA's focused. So I shouldn't focus there either. Let me go back to talking about this. So I put together this spreadsheet, and data center. Like I said, I thought that this was going to be their strong point with their H100 GPUs coming out, and it actually shrunk a little bit. There's a little bit of contraction, down almost 6% in data center. However, I don't think that that's going to be the case for long. I think that's going to start shining this year, hopefully. AI is hot right now. I don't know that companies can afford to sit back on AI. Just look at what happened with Google and Microsoft when it came to ChatGPT and then GPT, make sure I said that right, and then Google's Bard. Google was like, oh crap, we better push this product out there quickly. So they hurried up and they did it. And I don't think that companies like Google want to be caught like that for long. So there's a deal right now with Microsoft that if Microsoft is able to acquire Activision, then NVIDIA on their GeForce Now platform for gaming will get Call of Duty and Overwatch along with a whole bunch of other titles onto their platform, which means potentially more money in NVIDIA's pocket. So Data Insider and gaming, I think, are still the two big ones. And I said that I would show you what the percentages look like. Just look recently from just this past year. So we went from positive. So we had growth in those two areas in data center and gaming. We had some contraction here in professional visualization, a little bit in auto, of growth, and then some contraction in OEM and other. And then Q2 gets a bit worse. Matter of fact, check out gaming, and then it gets a bit worse. And look at professional visualization. Man, did that tank. And now when you look at Q4, which they said Q3 was the bottom, these numbers in Q4 are showing us exactly what they said, that Q3 was the bottom. So we went from an uncertain time in the market for them, even though the AI hype was there. And so far, they're showing us evidence that not only then can they come through for us in Q4, but also the outlook and the way they're positioned in the AI race is very, very healthy. So let me wrap this up. What does that look like in price action for their stock to have earnings that were sort of mixed, but an outlook that is incredible in their position in the industry for AI moving forward, not only on the hardware side, but on the software side? Well, take a look at that gap up that they made. I thought that they would top out at about 230. The high price today for NVIDIA was 238.80. So that's pretty much 4% higher than I thought that they would go. I do need to make just a small amendment from yesterday's video. I said 6% up or down. The 6% down was correct because I figured it was about $12 down that the stock could slide. And I figured, now the dollar amount I had right, at least I was thinking about that right. I said 228, 230. And then I said, I called that 6%, thinking at the moment that it was at 216. It wasn't. It was at about 206, 207. So that would be an extra 5-ish% onto that. So it should have been more like 11 to 12% up. So I apologize for that error. And that, that's what I get for doing math on the fly. So forgive me for that one if you will. And if you don't want to, I guess you can hold on to that grudge. So where the orange line is the current NVIDIA stock price. And we are near the market close. So it's probably going to close somewhere around 236. And we're over all other peaks besides these three that are right here in the middle. And that takes us all the way back to November the 22nd when the market was at its peak before the big sell-off that we had. So this thing came ripping back down. So we had some other prices going to March where the market took another nosedive. There we peaked out. The high price there was about 289. So we've passed every other peak before that, which is a very good and bullish thing for NVIDIA from where we're at right now. I worry a little bit about the speed of the ramp that we have, that as some of the hype dies down around it, that we're going to come pulling back a little bit from where we are. Now, I did say that I would mention price targets coming from the analysts. We have one from Raskin coming out at $265. We have another one from UBS coming out at $270 per share. And those are 12-month price targets that they've given. So we're going to have to see if that happens, if that comes to pass over the next 12 months. I do think that we see the price come down a little bit before we ever make it to those prices. In 2023, I think could be a little bit soft for us. I think the overall markets are going to impact the sort of rally that we see happening from NVIDIA over time. So in a market like this and in hype like this, we can most definitely expect that volatility. It doesn't take away from the quality of company that I believe NVIDIA to be. That's what I have for you guys today. If you enjoyed my commentary, hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. Hit the subscribe button, ring that notification bell. And if you want to hear more of my commentary, check out that link for the Patreon down in the description. Check out the Patreon exclusive content I have over there, as well as becoming a member of my private Discord and joining the community. We'd absolutely love to have you. It's time for me to sign off. I'm Dr. Stock, Doctor of Education. We'll see you in the next video.